In today's video, I want to discuss how you aim the club face at setup. Now, invariably, when I ask golfers what they do, they say to me, I am trying to aim my club face directly at the target. In today's video, I'm going to show you why this is incorrect and in fact not what you should be trying to do. There is some sense in that answer. When you further probe the golfer and say, what shot are you trying to hit? They invariably say, I'm trying to hit a straight shot to my target. And that would require a club face pointing straight at the target at impact. But the reality is, the best players in the world all curve the ball one way or the other. So if I think of the LPGA Tour players, the enormous majority of them hit a draw shot. So for a right-handed golfer, they start the ball off to the right before curving the ball to the left, a draw. On the PGA Tour, it's a little bit more balanced, perhaps even in favor of a fade shot, where they start the ball to the left of the target before curving it to the right. So you have a draw from right to left and a fade from left to right. Now, what you need to know and understand is that the club face is the tool of projection. Now, what do I mean by that? Quite simply, wherever the club face points at impact is where the golf ball is going to start. And I have rounded off some numbers to be able to say that, but we are close enough. So your simple rule is wherever the club face points is where the ball starts. So if we take the example of a player who draws the golf ball, starts the ball to the right, then curves it to the left as a right-handed player, where does the club face need to point at impact? Well, it needs to point to the right-hand side of the target in order to favor the ball starting to the right-hand side of the target. Because if the ball is going to curve from right to left, for it to finish on target, it has to start to the right. Otherwise, you're going to miss the target to the left. So for the players who draw the ball, the club face at the moment of impact needs to point to the right, and consequently vice versa. For players who fade the ball, the club face at impact has to point to the left. So how far to the side do you need to point your club face? So just to give you an idea, and let's put this into numbers, if you are aiming your club face a degree to the right at 200 yards, that is 3.5 yards to the right of the target. If you're pointing your club face 2 degrees to the right, at 200 yards, that's 7 yards to the right. If your club face points 3 degrees to the right, that's 10 yards to the right at 200 yards. If you open it 4 degrees, that's 14 yards. If you open it 5 degrees, that's 17 yards. So the amount doesn't matter so much. It can be little, it can be big. What's important is that you have a very predictable curve. So if you're playing a 10-yard draw at 200 yards, that amounts to pointing the club face 3 degrees to the right. And as you can imagine, 3 degrees isn't a great amount, but nonetheless, it is there. So the simple idea to have in your mind is that you are going to start to point the club face wherever you want to start the ball. And that means if you're trying to hit a 10-yard draw, you're going to point it 10 yards to the right. If you're trying to play a 20 yards draw, you're going to try and point it 20 yards to the right. And everything else in between and to the other side for a fade. So you are trying to point the club face wherever you want the ball to start. The next point to consider is that a lot can happen between setup and address. So you could set up with your club face pointing someplace, then dynamically through your swing, you could make that different for impact. So if you were starting to supinate your lead arm like this would make the club face point more to the left. Less supinated, the other direction, it would make the club face point more to the right. If you started to raise your handle more as you came through the shot, that would make the club face more to the right. If you lowered the handle, it would make it point more to the left. If you created more palmar flexion in the lead wrist, that would make the club face more to the right. Vice versa, more to the left. So dynamically, an awful lot can happen. What matters is obviously what happens at impact, and that has to be the key. So you are trying to position yourself at address in such a way but where you return it at impact is compatible with the shot you're trying to play. So again, for a right-handed golfer, you're trying to return it so it points to the right when you're trying to hit a draw shot, and you're trying to point it to the left when you're trying to hit a fade shot. If we have a look at the screen here, we have Collin Morikawa, tour player, and you can see the shot he's hit on TrackMan. So the ball started left of the target, curving to the right, the fade shot. So where do we expect the club face to have pointed of impact? We expect it to have pointed left, and that is what it says. You can see the face angle number down there. A club face pointed 1.7 degrees to the left. If you have a look at his setup position here, you can almost see it. You can see the target line, the TrackMan is set on here in the white, and you can see how that club face already here is angled more to the left, ready for him to return it in such a way that he's going to be able to play his fade shot and not have the shot finish excessively to the right, because the club face is close to the target, left of the target, as he's hitting the ball. Here we have a similar example of Matt Fitzpatrick hitting a fade with his driver, and you can see the face angle pointing 1.4 degrees to the left, so the ball can start to the left before curving back. And likewise, when you look at the left or right-hand side photo, you can see how he's already angling his club face a little bit to the left at setup, ready to match that expectation for impact with the club face pointing to the left. Conversely, we have Eduardo Molinari here with a driver in hand, and you can see he started a shot to the right-hand side of the target before curving back to the left, so your stock draw shot, and consequently his face angle as he hit the golf ball was 1.7 degrees to the right, so it's pointing to the right to allow for the ball to then curve back to the left. And once more, if you have a look at the screen and you have a look at where the target line is set, that white line, you can see already how that club face is positioned in such a way that it already points a little bit to the right, ready to match the golf shot he has in his mind. So please remember this simple rule of thumb. You are trying to point the club face where you are trying to start the ball, and if you're drawing the ball, that has to be to the right. If you're fading the ball, that has to be left for the left if you are a right-handed golfer. Vice versa for the opposite. If you enjoyed the content, then as usual, please do like and subscribe. It will help your game and it will help my channel. If you have any questions or comments, then please leave them down below. Happy golfing.